Hi everybody, I'm Jack and this is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. I'm at work and I'm coming to you from our yoga studio again. I think I did a video from here a week or two ago, but it was the only quiet place that I could find some space. So I thought I would do a video from here this morning. How are you guys doing? My week's going well, off to a good start. I saw somebody the other day. I can't remember who triggered this idea, but this one's been in my head for a couple of days. And yeah, I see it all the time. This is just a particular catalyst that kind of triggered me and got me thinking in this direction. It was somebody that like had a meltdown and ate something really heinous, or actually didn't have the meltdown, but they really had a strong craving and almost had a meltdown. And for something, I can't even remember exactly what the exact food type was, but it was something, I'm not sure, I think it was vegan, but it was horrible. It was really, really, really bad. And I was thinking, like, it really surprised me. I don't know why, because this happens from time to time. And it'll tend to be the people that are the most, they're almost that type. I almost even catch them, the people that are kind of telling me, like, oh my gosh, that apple cider vinegar, no, that's not optimal. And they preach from that high pulpit about the fat. I don't eat fat, and I will not have fat, and fat does this, and fat does that. And they are about the most strict of the strict. And what I think is they're just not ready for it, and they're kind of possibly derailing themselves by not giving themselves a little bit of a safety valve. In other words, what I'm saying is, if you're trying to be fully raw, and this is all my opinion, like anything I ever do on here it's just my opinion, but if you're trying to be fully raw, if you're being really stringent about this, if you're having, listen, I'm not perfect. I can have my cravings too, but my cravings are not going to tend to be that bad. I'm not going to go off the rails and go down to the store and get some processed junk. You're not going to see me eating a bag of potato chips, cheese curls, Twinkies, a candy bar, or what else, whether vegan or not. That's just like, that's off the table. Now, that's not to say, hey, look at me, I do this and that. That's because I've gone through the steps and I know what I can handle right now. And I've allowed myself along this process to have things in my diet that will keep me from going there. For instance, people that have just been doing this raw vegan thing for about 5 minutes, sometimes you can get a false sense of security because you did do it so fast. You didn't do your transition all that thoroughly, and you went straight for the highest of the high. Some people can do that, so please, I don't ever want to discourage people that are really, that have this sort of a different kind of inner strength that can just go straight and they can kind of work through the process on their own. But for most people, their bodies aren't ready for that. And by not giving themselves some good outlets, in other words, like I'd rather see somebody any day of the week eating cooked food. I'd rather any day of the week see people eating avocados. When I say cooked food, I'd rather see them eating some, good steamed vegetables, some potatoes even. Potatoes, rice, whatever that is, whatever you eat in the starches. I'm not even real all that familiar with starches because it's been so long. Well, except for potatoes. But yes, a potato is superior to a bag of potato chips. It is superior to a candy bar, ice cream, whatever this garbage stuff is that you might tend to let all of a sudden, when it's all built up and you've been doing so good and you don't need anything but this, you don't need oil, you don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need, the Bragg's aminos, those are not optimal, they will, oh yes, and I can see the pontificating sometimes. I just laugh at it. I don't get offended by anything. It's very, very hard to offend me. That annoys people sometimes. Sometimes people are trying to offend you and they get a little peeved that you won't be offended, but yeah, it doesn't bother me because I know I use what I use to make my lifestyle work. And that's the point I'm getting at, is you've got to learn how to make this lifestyle work. You've got to quit going for this ideal that you see other people doing, which a lot of people aren't living up to anyway. I don't think, for all the people that do tell you they have these freakouts and eat crazy things, I think for every one of them, there's hundreds of people that do it and don't ever tell anybody. because they put too many restrictions on themselves, and they don't have any outlets. They don't have any way to deal when the cravings get really bad. Now for me, like I say, I've talked about even healthier ways to get rid of the cravings just by eating bananas, which works for me. But some people are not there. Some people up there and within their body are not at a place where bananas are going to just be enough for them. So, and another one that I totally don't advocate at all as an optimal thing once you get there, but even using olive oil, even using good healthy oils in the beginning, all these different ones that I'm throwing out, like the cooked food, the oils, the avocados, just various examples of what we use, or and it goes back to what I say. All that stuff is part of the transition. I mean, to get to that highest high, even if you're striving to get to that highest high, you didn't get to that lowest low overnight, and it's going to take a while to get there. And I've found with anything in life, this gray means I've learned a lot, and most of my learning is coming from making mistakes. But one thing I've found in my life is every time I've tried to take shortcuts, every time I've tried to skip stages, I have not been as successful. Let me check my notes real quick here. I pretty much was able to stay on everything without using the notes today. But yeah, I just I'm looking through, and this is just random stuff. Sometimes I don't even write in full sentences, but yeah, just like processed treats, crap, junk food, the lowest of the low, and you see people actually eating that or entertaining the idea of eating that. Somebody that freaks out and just, like I've heard this one several times, like all of a sudden like magic forces take over the steering wheel, and somebody that's doing raw vegan goes through a drive-through window. If you're going through a drive-through window, I'm just going to tell you unequivocally, you're not ready to be doing raw vegan. You need to step back about 7 or 8 steps where you are, and you need to work through the process. You need to have these healthy alternatives in your life, because you're defeating the purpose if you eat so healthy. It's perfect, and then you go totally off the rails and eat some serious garbage. I would say that's much worse for you than the person that has some of those things in there that you may not consider optimal. They may be eating more fat than you consider optimal. They may be including cooked food in their program, but they're moving forward. And when they have to fall back on, okay, let's say, for instance, what used to be a fallback for me would be a ton of potatoes and put olive oil on. Optimal? No. Even when I go to States now, I don't pour the olive oil on there like I used to. But that was at a place that I was at, and I will still go back and say I had rather have seen myself eating potatoes with olive oil on there than going to a fast food place and getting French fries or just whatever other garbage there is out there, like just going off the rails one night and saying, okay, just one night of junk food. See, I was able to work through all that stuff, and now that stuff has been left behind. But it took me a while to get through there. Just have a little patience. Have a little patience. There's no rush in this thing. Now, but then that's a different story. If you're sick, if you're healing from something, if you had some life-threatening thing, yes, then you have a little bit more urgency. But steady wins the race, and don't beat yourself up because you're not at that highest level of eating 100% fully raw, and you don't add any of these products, and it's a low-fat fully raw. In fact, you're not even 80-10-10, you're 95-5, and you're going, and your freaking brain explodes. And you eat junk that sets you back. I don't know how far it sets you back, but I just know this: there's no freaking way that you could put any processed junk in my. You would have to physically hold me down right now and force feed me processed junk type food. Just not where I'm going. But then again, that's not a good example. I got it up there about the stuff. Like I say, I used from the beginning. I used the healthier alternatives, like I say, with the potatoes and olive oil. And there were other things like that were marginal that I wouldn't consider, beneficial for me now, but they got me through back then, and they kept me going through drive-thrus. I never touched one little processed snack. I don't want to say I never touched any processed food, because you know, there's always from time to time. But yeah, I never, after the first time I found this lifestyle, like went back to eating Cheetos or went back to eating. Oh, I did have these one little things. Probably my one little biggest boo-boo back then. Not boo-boo, but just my biggest little crutch back then was I'd buy these packages of Yucca chips. Now I checked it out. They didn't have the fat in there. They did have a little bit of salt, and I would have those about once or twice a week. But that's been like 2.5 years ago. But yeah, I gave myself alternatives. I gave myself healthy alternatives. I gave myself alternatives that might not be the highest high, but they kept me from going to the lowest low. So do what you're ready to do. If you're not, do not be obsessed with this fully raw vegan thing just because some of the people or some of the groups you go to or some of the influences around you, it just looks like the cool thing to do. If you think, you know, part of this channel is I don't try to talk people into being fully raw vegans. I don't try to talk people out of being fully raw vegans. I'm just saying, you know your reasoning, know what you're doing, have a plan for what you're doing. And the plan is that you're going to have a much better chance to succeed long-term on a high carb vegan lifestyle if you do it right. And if you're not freaking out and sitting around thinking about food all the time. Anyhow, that's just my 2 cents worth today. I hope you like this video. If you guys like this one, give me a thumbs up. Hope you'll subscribe to the channel, and I hope the week's going well for you. Peace.